Hey everybody, welcome back to Coffee and One Thing with Team Beery. We're so excited that you're here. I was expecting y'all to chime in. I'm like, here I am.
Good morning.
Waving in there, being quiet.
We're here.
We're supposed to be caffeinated.
We are caffeinated and motivated.
Okay, I'm motivated.
I promise you.
Our coffee this month is the wonderful classic Folgers.
Let's hear it.
Makes me anxious now.
She
The
can't
best
sing.
part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. There we go.
And there it is.
And we are here to talk about last week with Derek Weatherford. Thank you, Derek, for coming and being a part of our podcast.
That was awesome.
Awesome.
Yep.
So good.
He's
Lot
so
of information.
reassuring. He has
Yeah.
a really nice,
Yeah.
reassuring personality.
Yes.
I like it.
But it's nice to have somebody's perspective who actually does this job.
Every day.
Yeah. Exactly.
When
So
he's not being a firefighter.
when he's not being when he is saving the world. You know, some people just do it all.
He could have a cape.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we should make him a
should
Team
make
Beery cake. Oh, that would be funny.
Oh, that's
We'll put that on the
hilarious.
list. Okay.
So
sorry.
let's go back to our
Back to our
here.
podcast.
Would that be a magenta colored cape?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I guess, and he wants
Just
to wear
for
that
dinner.
color. Just not sure. Sorry.
Okay, we are now caffeinated and motivated.
Yeah, we've got it all together. We want to talk about, so the buyer is the person who chooses their home inspector.
Right.
Obviously, as realtors, because we've worked with a lot of different home inspectors, we have people we refer because
or we feel
of
comfortable that they are going to
we've had good experiences with,
Yeah.
or other clients have had a great experience with. But it is down to the buyer to make that decision to sign that contract to hire this person, for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are things that we can share with you, tips and tricks and ideas to get you thinking about how to do this and what to ask?
Right.
So, to start off, what are your favorite things about your favorite home inspectors?
Well, one of the things that I like about the home inspectors that I typically refer to is that they do a comprehensive report.
Mm-hmm.
That they go through the house completely. They will actually give you all the details about the
All the different features.
but more importantly, like all of the components of your home. So you have
Things they found.
serial numbers. You have all that kind of stuff. That's to me a huge one.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that they will do a infrared.
Thermal imaging.
Thermal imaging, and they've found things that you can't see through a wall, so there's no way you would know.
And you're not going to open up the wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can use that infrared.
Or even if it's in the ceiling.
Exactly.
Bathroom.
And you can see.
Yeah, you've had that
I've had that
experience
happen,
before.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about that,
Absolutely.
right? In our how to prepare,
How to
right? 'Cause
prepare.
Prepare.
our next episode is for sellers, how to prepare.
Right.
You
for a
need some
home
more
inspection.
Folgers. The wheels weren't turning.
It's all good.
I got stuck. I got, what do they call that when your gears get hung up?
Right.
So, cool. And so I know that there are different qualifications. The state has certification
Absolutely.
Yes.
that home inspectors have to meet.
Right.
Arizona
And
State-
guidelines.
Yeah.
I know one of the big things is ASHI. Is that how you would say it? ASHI?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the association, what is it?
American
American
Association.
Society of Home Inspectors.
Yeah. And they're a big national certification,
Right.
So that's important to look for.
Yes.
What have they been certified? What type of training have they had? I know just like appraisers, home inspectors have to do an internship.
Right.
So like X amount
X amount of, I think it's like
homes.
30 before they
Yeah.
can actually do something on their own.
So there are things like that the state does certify, but you also want to ask those questions and be comfortable with that person is what you're looking for.
And to be Ashley, you actually have to keep your education going. You can't just go to school and then never go back. So
Nice.
that's also a
So
nice.
it
it's
requires some continued
like being an
education.
agent,
Right.
you got to keep up.
Kind
with
of keep
it.
things
Okay.
up, yeah.
Very cool.
Because things change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else? You mentioned thermal imaging, like
Thermal
asking
imaging,
if that's
yeah.
part of their home inspection.
That to me
And
is
their
huge.
process.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a big thing because Scott, you had a leak.
A leak
right?
in the master bathroom toilet upstairs.
that you
They-
wouldn't have known about.
They
Could
wouldn't-
never
we
have
would have
known
never
about.
found it
Right.
without the thermal imaging.
Right.
So we were
That's so
able to ask
cool.
for it to get repaired.
Technology is amazing.
Yes.
Right.
I'm just blown away. Blown away. What else? Termites.
Termite.
Termites and what they say out here is it's not do you have termites, it's when are you going to have
Right.
termites.
Yeah.
So so that's a huge important
Which is
piece.
so interesting. Do you think it's? I mean, I know our termites are different than termites back east.
Right.
Correct.
Right. You don't typically have to tent
You
the
don't
house.
tent the house. You don't do a
and
lot
that
of
kind
that
of stuff.
kind of stuff.
And they're not as.
Well, if you get an
Damaging?
infestation, you do have to tent the house, but ours are slower moving
okay.
termites. You can catch them and mitigate it pretty
before
quick.
too much
Yeah.
damage has happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you still, I mean,
Are
my
they
pest
desert? Do you know what I'm saying? Is it because
It's
we're in a desert?
it's subterranean. So that type of termite only lives kind of in this region.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you still want to check your house once a year for termites,
It's always a good plan.
or
Especially
And most-
before selling
whenever
a
you
house.
have pest
And
control
most
come out.
pest companies offer that service.
Right.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I think they
A
A lot
free
of them will do
inspection.
a
mine
free
will just
inspection, yeah.
will just do it when they're out.
Yeah.
So they're always kind of keeping their eyes peeled out for it.
That's kind of nice. So the other thing that I liked on a home inspection is
Mm-hmm.
they need to take a lot of pictures.
Yes.
A lot of
Yeah.
pictures. You've got to document a bunch of stuff. You've got
Mm-hmm.
to tell me, what does the AC look like? What does the
Mm-hmm.
attic look like? What do all the plumbing stuff going on?
So visual evidence
Yes.
of what the report
I want to know what that
holds.
roof looks like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if there's slip tiles. I want to see if there's any damage of any sort, if the pipes are not sealed properly. So,
Right. And obviously, if we're a buyer's agent, we help negotiate those things. But it definitely makes a difference when you have a visual representation of what you're asking
'Cause
for.
that's easier
Versus,
to-
I've definitely been in a situation where you have a report that says, well, there are, 3 slipped, or not even have a number.
They never
No,
have.
they never
yeah.
have a number. Slipped and broken tiles. Well,
How do you
you
prove that?
quantify
Yeah.
that? Because our job is to quantify that
Right.
and make sure it's specific enough that when we make the request that we have a way to know that it's been done, right? Which a
Right.
reinspection
Right.
helps.
Right.
But you got to make that request specific enough that, say there's 1 tile here and then 5 over here, and they do the 1 and not the 5,
Right.
Yeah.
It
So
it
pictures
can
make a
Yeah, it
difference.
can make a big difference.
I agree.
So to me, that those are some of the things that I always tell my folks, and I always tell them too, start looking for your home inspector before we are under contract.
Right.
That's huge, because if you are under contract, you have a certain amount of time to get everything done.
Traditionally 10 days.
And that can be overwhelming in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've already sort of gone through the process of picking your home inspector,
And you know who
then
to call.
everything is going to be so much smoother.
No, that's really well, and we talk about that in our buyer consultations.
Absolutely.
That first initial time where we sit down with the buyer, talk about the process and what we provide and what it looks like. We're advising, hey, start thinking about these things now, because this purchasing property is definitely can be an overwhelming experience.
Well,
There are a lot of components to
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and we want to do our best to give knowledge and make sure that it's as smooth as possible.
Right. And it's the largest purchase you'll probably make.
Yeah.
And so if that's the
Yeah, I'm
case,
like,
you've
I don't
got
know
to.
what else I would buy that would be
That's
that
what- yeah.
expensive.
Me either.
So with that being said, you want to make sure that you know you're picking the right person, not just a hurried, hey, I'll just do this.
Yeah, whoever.
Yeah.
In the A's in the
yeah,
phone book.
Right.
Well,
it's
not
fast.
anymore, but Used to
Google.
could.
It's the top. Whoever has
Yeah,
the
who
best,
has the best ad.
best SEO. You know.
Yeah.
That's not always the
Yeah.
best way to pick somebody
No.
either. So, and again, that's another piece that I want to talk about is the cost. Sometimes people go, oh, well, I just want to get a really cheap inspection. Well, that's not always your best choice.
That's true.
You want to make sure you're getting the most thorough inspection.
Right. The most value for your dollar.
Yes. And so in the buyer consult, we always talk about that too. It's like, there's a value to having that piece up front and making because that's how it gives us legs to negotiate.
Right.
You
It's an important piece.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and Derek mentioned last week, but if you're unfamiliar with home inspections and home inspection pricing, it follows the square footage of the property typically, because a larger property,
Right.
a longer inspection, more time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
And
there's
age
a
of home.
range.
And age of home.
Age of home.
So
makes
those
a
are like
difference.
usually kind of the components of how it's going to cost
Right.
in general.
Yeah, and then obviously there can be add-ons, like if there's a pool, if there's a spa, some of those extra things.
And those are actually limited. So sometimes
Right.
it's not worth paying
It's
a home
function.
inspector to do that pool inspection. It might
Let's
be
get
better to
pool
have a pool
company.
company come
Right,
and do
because
that
they're
home
going to
inspection.
test the water
Yeah.
and other, and actually open up because of their familiarity,
And-
open up
and their
the
licensing.
pump or, I don't know,
Yeah.
filters, look
Yeah.
at more in-depth things.
Exactly. Or a AC. You want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you have an AC company come as opposed to just a home inspector looking at that, because he mentioned they only do
Right.
they only do a visual. They're just checking the temperatures.
Don't you kind of go by with that based on the age of the home? So if you have a home built in 1975 that has a pool, an older roof, an older HVAC, then the recommendations become get an inspection
Get the
for each
extra,
one.
yeah, get the extras on
Versus
top.
if you got a house built in 2010, you don't necessarily need that many inspectors, I would think.
Well,
Depending on what that
a good
inspector
general
finds out.
guideline is what the home inspector says. So
Right.
so he's going to do his visual. He's going to give you a pretty good feel of what's happening
Right.
with that
And
property.
how things are functioning.
And then you can make the call. Is it worth having that roof guy come and do a roof inspection, or is it worth
Right.
having somebody do an AC inspection? So to me, like it starts the conversation of what you need to do next.
Yeah.
They
Derek kind of talked about it, but in-depth things, right? They run all the faucets.
right.
They're looking for any leaks.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for, plumbing drips and that
Structural
kind of
stuff,
stuff. Structural
yeah.
things.
They'll even run the appliances to see how the appliances are doing. But like he said, he's not an appliance professional, so
Yeah.
all he can tell you is, yeah, it turns on.
Yeah, and
So
it's hot or
if
cold.
it's something you're
and-
really concerned about, then it's worth having another inspection. So I know people get kind of frustrated because, they're like, okay, it's going to cost a lot of money. But at the end, knowing what you're buying is probably valued.
I would think so.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody does it with a new car because they come with warranties. But if you're buying an older vehicle, right,
Most
would you
times you're
take
gonna
it to your mechanic
yeah,
and
most
have
of
them
the
look
times
it
you're
over?
gonna.
Yeah.
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 So things to help. Things that Derek mentioned and things that we've run across that are not necessarily inspected.
That's a good one too.
Water softeners,
Yeah.
That's the big one.
A lot of people don't
RO
realize
systems.
RO system.
that. RO systems. What about low voltage? Like, I've got lights in the backyard. I've got some lights focused up on some pretty trees. Are they checking that stuff? No. They don't check into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, especially during the day when the lights
Right.
aren't on.
Yeah.
Well, you can turn them on, but
You might not see them if
yeah,
they're low voltage.
yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of stuff that you always kind of want to make sure. HVAC too, that like they do a
Yeah.
check of what the temperatures are. The split is what he called it. But they're not opening it up. They're not looking in the
Checking the capacitors,
Checking the capacitors, checking the-
freon
No,
level.
but
Right.
they'll if they're in the attic and the air handler's in the attic, they will note if it's a rusted or if there's moisture.
That's right.
in
right.
the
They
catch
they
pan.
catch the
Yeah,
visual
anything they
stuff.
can visually
Yeah.
see, they
Yeah.
will tell you,
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
which is
So-
nice to know.
So there's
So
a
biggest
lot
thing
of
is
tips.
familiarity, right? Being
Yeah.
comfortable you want to trust this person. You want to feel like you're getting your money's worth.
Right.
Asking all the questions.
And also asking if they have a report that they can provide, like just a sample.
So you know what to
and
expect.
so you can kind of see what their report looks like before you actually get the one that's on your home.
That's true.
And you're a little more familiar with how things are going to look. So
yeah, because I've seen some really cumbersome
or wonky looking,
reports.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
all right.
All right, so there's
Simple
a bunch of
things.
tips. If you can think of
Anything else?
you know where we're at.
Yeah.
Contact us.
Absolutely.
We'll get you the answers.
If you found this helpful, make sure to like and subscribe and leave us a comment below on anything that you might be interested in. We appreciate you watching. Come back next week. And always choose a very good team.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.